And basically, what we have on Bitcoin, we had a breakout that occurred about 10 days ago here, right? So we had this beautiful downsloping trend line, and this is something I was expecting. I think last time I was on, I said we might go as high as 22,500, maybe 25 on this pump, but it was all predicated that we would break out of this channel, right, or this wedge pattern, and that's exactly what we did. And now what you're getting here after we got this 2 bar move up, we're basically seeing sideways chop. Well, as of now, that sideways chop is called bullish consolidation. And
Yep.
what's interesting is it's consolidating into the Fed on Wednesday. So my guess is we're going to stay sideways choppy into the Fed on Wednesday. And then you're either going to see the most probable outcome, which will be a move up, or if the probabilities fail, then you'd see the downside move. But I would favor the upside with a target here of around 22,500 near term. Maybe max upside would be 25 over the next month or so into year end.
Hello and welcome to Money Talks. In today's video, President and Chief Market Strategist of Verified Crypto Investing, Gareth Soloway, updates about his latest interpretation of Bitcoin charts, the ongoing moves in the crypto markets, and the expected trends for Bitcoin in November. Make sure to stick around till the end of this video where Gareth Soloway predicts the chances of Bitcoin bottoming and the start of a new bull run.
So as we get into November, and this, I mean, to be honest, a lot of this, and I'll show my chart here, a lot of this is going to be predicated on what the Fed does, just like you said. And so note the one thing that I'm kind of eyeing is the fact that if we zoom out on this S&P chart, you have this trend line that's sloping up and then this little bit of an area right here. And so we're right into a decent resistance line right here. Now, if the Fed says the right things, we could pop as high as this downsloping trend line, which would be around just over 4,100 on the S&P 500. But I am concerned that we've already had a big rally up. If the Fed, again, doesn't kind of give the market that pause after a hike, then I think we're headed very quickly to the downside. And it still concerns me, honestly, that we haven't even retested the pre-COVID highs, right? The February 2020 highs on this market. We came close, but we didn't get there. So for me, I'm more inclined to think that it'll be a whippy November, but it wouldn't shock me if at some point we see a down November overall.
A simple but elegant Bitcoin price metric has returned to lows from before the 2017 bull market. As noted by its creator, Charles Edwards, CEO of asset manager Capriole, the Bitcoin yardstick is now at its second lowest level in history. As on-chain metrics converge to put in a classic macro bottom for Bitcoin, a new candidate is suggesting that Bitcoin is even more oversold than the average hodler believes.
Whether we get a 50 or 75, and I think the market's pricing in a 75, the market is rallying and we're well off the recent lows on the hope that he's going to pause. So we're not talking about a real pivot in that he would start to cut. That's not going to happen. But the market just wants him to step back for a few months and reevaluate the data for like 2 or 3 months in a row. And so I think that's what the market is hoping for. And if he does do that, I think you see a bounce or a pop in the markets on Friday. If he still talks about raising in December another 50 or 25, I think the market's going to get pretty scared again that he's overdoing it and you're going to be pushing this market into potential major recession, not just minor. Minor's kind of the base case at this point for me. It's a matter of how bad does it get? Because again, we haven't even, he's raised now 375s, probably 4 per. You could argue that maybe only one of those rate hikes has filtered into the economy at this point. And so there's a lot of filtering that needs to go on, and we have to see where the economy stands at that point. And that's scary to me.
While he cautions that it is, quote, not investment advice, this has implications for would-be buyers. Much of the unrealized value lies in the amount of work done to secure Bitcoin supply during price suppression.
Yeah, I think 50 hike would be bullish, but it's the comments afterwards, right? It's the comments of saying, okay, guys, we're going to take a break here for 2 months, let's say, or 3 months and reevaluate. Or does he say, hey, we're going to still keep hiking in December and on and on. And that would be more scary for the market. So in a weird way, I don't even think 50 or 75 is that relevant. Everyone knows something's coming. It's about what he guides, the guidance essentially.
This means that on a relative basis, Bitcoin is extraordinarily cheap given the amount of energy being used on what is the most powerful computer network in the world.
Yeah, so I still think that they're working with yesterday's news in terms of the inflation levels. I've been very shocked, to be honest, that they haven't discounted the strong jobs numbers more.
Hmm.
Maybe it's just because the inflation data has stayed so strong that they're willing to not play into the jobs data being a lagging indicator. But I do think that at this stage they're going to find themselves, and you saw, I mean, there was like $1 trillion that investors had kind of squirreled away for
Yeah.
spending during COVID and after COVID here, and they paid down credit card debt. If you look at the recent credit card numbers, credit card debt is soaring again. And so what you're seeing is an investor or the citizens of the US at least that are at a point where they're getting back to their levels of debt that they were, and they will
Hmm.
have to be cut off, or they will cut themselves off at some point if the economy starts to weaken significantly. So I am concerned that I think the Fed again is going to overdo it, just like they they overdid it with stimulus and thinking it was transitory. I think they're going to
Hmm.
overdo it here and then have to play catch up. And honestly, wouldn't shock me to see interest rates go down in late 2023 or early 2024.
The yardstick feeds into the concept of proof of work, the mining algorithm of the Bitcoin network, and its stability to store and grow value over time based on productive activity. The Bitcoin Standard, the seminal book, focuses heavily on the idea.
Yeah, I do. I do. I think that the tech stocks are having their kind of reckoning day. They got these valuations because every pension fund, every fund was just loading the boat and continuing to kind of get into them, and that gave them these nutty valuations that even an Apple had. And still, in my opinion, even with Apple going up on earnings, it's still a little on the pricier side. Now, Meta is
Yeah.
starting to become interesting to me. That is definitely seeing a big discount. I love when everyone's hating on a stock because that's usually when the emotion is too bearish and you'll get a snapback. But certainly we are seeing the reckoning. And you saw the Dow, right? I mean, the NASDAQ
Hmm.
100 is barely positive on the month, but the Dow's having
Yep.
its best month in a long time. It tells you there's a rotation of capital going on.
The opposite of the current scenario, meanwhile, where the price is high compared to work done, occurred during the 2013 and 2017 bull market years.
Yeah, so I do agree that we're closer to the bottom, considering 69,000 to
Sure.
20,000 is yeah. But so I mean, this is the issue: is that I think we're all in agreement that at some point Bitcoin is going to pivot into a safety trade. But the question is when is that going to happen? And I just don't see it yet. It's still too speculative. We don't have the framework for regulation out there yet that's going to get
Yeah.
money, the big money, comfortable enough to get into Bitcoin as a safety asset. At this point, there's still a lot of money that's too scared to even go near it. So I think, again, yes, I agree that will happen. But for me, it's more of a 6, 12 month out type thing before we see that pivot. And that still leaves the door open for the next equity dump to cause Bitcoin to also have a dump.
As Cointelegraph reported, Bitcoin miners are under considerable stress despite mushrooming hash rate as profit margins get squeezed.
The Wall Street Journal released an article saying that the Fed was going to hike 75 and then pause, right? And the
Hmm.
reason we know that's significant is because in the past, the Fed has used the Wall Street Journal as a conduit to let the market know.
Yes.
And not only did that happen on that Friday, but then literally an hour later, the Japanese central bank then intervened. And to me, that was a very coordinated event where it
Hmm.
told you that central banks aren't just closing their eyes and doing what's just right for their country. They're paying a global attention to the other countries out there, and they're kind of coordinating.
The options market tracking Bitcoin suggests that the once overwhelming fear of an extended slide has subsided, a sign that the worst may be over for the price of the cryptocurrency.
For the most part, they're tied. I think the weird divergence could come when we get the regulatory stuff and from Gary Gensler at the SEC, because again, there's going to be this defining difference where we know that Bitcoin is a commodity. We know that likely an Ethereum is more of a security, but we don't know the specific rules that this the crypto markets have to play by. And I think as you start to see this come out, it makes sense that you'll start getting varied valuations, right? What does a
Hmm.
commodity get valued at versus a security like Ethereum could be, and what are the
Yeah.
rules that it has to abide by? So I think that this is going to be a pivotal point where you could see maybe potentially Ethereum really start to play catch up to Bitcoin in terms of market cap if the regulatory stuff is put into the right form, right? It's all about
Yeah.
the right form.
So, what do you think will be the defining difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum? Tell us in the comments. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you soon with the next video. Thank you so much for watching.